لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد.
The Shaykh, he started off by glorifying Allah, who there's no God besides Him, deserving worship, and giving salat and salam on the Prophet, who there's no Prophet after him.
فنحمد الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يسر لنا ولكم هذا الاجتماع في بيت من بيوته.
So he glorified Allah that He made it easy for us that we could gather in one of the houses from His houses.
وإذا كان أهل الدنيا مشغولون بدنياهم,
at the time when the people of the dunya are busy by their worldly life,
فإن الله تبارك وتعالى يسر لنا ولكم الاجتماع على الطاعة.
then Allah made it easy for us to gather together on His obedience.
سئل ابن عباس كيف وعيت هذا العلم؟ فقال
Ibn Abbas was asked, how were you able to preserve this knowledge? And he said,
بلسان سؤول وقلب عقول.
with a busy wet tongue and with a heart that is paying attention, or intellectual heart.
ولهذا ينبغي لطالب العلم أن يأتي إلى الدرس فارغ الذهن.
So it's important that the student of knowledge comes to the class with an empty mind.
وهذه الرسالة التي سندرسها معكم المسمى بالأصول الستة.
In this treatise that we will study with you, that's been called the 6 principles.
هي أصول عظيمة ألفها إمام جهبذ عالم.
It's been translated as a book that was written by a very esteemed, amazing scholar.
وهذه الأصول في كلماتها يسيرة.
And these principles, their wordage is simple,
لكن في معانيها عظيمة.
but its meaning is great.
فينبغي علينا أن نفهم هذه الأصول وأن ندرك معانيها.
So it's important for us that we understand these principles and that we comprehend their meanings.
الأصول جمع أصل في اللغة العربية.
The word usul is the plural of the word asl, which means foundations in the Arabic language.
والأصل ما يبنى عليه غيره.
And so the word asl is something that other than it is built on top of it.
فأصل البنيان أساسه.
So the foundation or the asl of a building is its asas or its foundation.
وأصل كل شيء مبدأه.
And the asl of everything is where it started from.
وهذه الأصول الستة عظيمة لأن المسائل تؤول إليها.
And these 6 principles are magnificent because all of the other issues go back and return to them.
فلو تأملنا فيها نجد أن مسائل الاعتقاد والعمل راجعة إلى هذه الأصول.
So if we were to observe and pay attention to them, we will find that the issues of aqidah or the issues of law all go back to these principles.
قال الإمام رحمه الله تعالى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
The Imam, he started by saying Bismillah, in the name of Allah, the full of mercy, the giver of mercy.
وينبغي أن نتنبه لا تمد رجلك إلى المصحف. ينبغي أن نتنبه إلى أن البسملة متى تقال.
And it's important that we should that we become aware of the word basmala or the basmala. When should it be said?
فيه بسملة وفيه تسمية.
We have the basmala, the statement Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then we have a tasmiyah.
والتسمية يعني بسم الله.
It's just Bismillah.
البسملة تقال في موضعين.
The statement al-Basmala is said in 2 places.
عند قراءة القرآن من أول السورة.
At the reading of the Quran from the beginning of the surah.
أو من وسط السورة.
Or from the middle of the surah.
الموضع الثاني عند كتابة رسالة.
The second place is when you write a letter.
ولذلك نجد القرآن الكريم في أول كل سورة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So for this purpose we find that in the beginning of every surah in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
وسليمان عليه وعلى نبينا الصلاة والسلام قال في رسالته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنه من سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
And Sulaiman, upon him and upon our Prophet be salatu wasalam, he said in his letter that he wrote, verily it is from Sulaiman and verily it is in the name of Allah, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
والنبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم ما يرسل رسائله إلى الملوك والأمراء أول كلمة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
And our honored Prophet, when he would write his letter to the kings and to the leaders of the world, the first thing he would say is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
فلذلك الإمام رحمه الله كتب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم التسمية البسملة كاملة، لأن هذه رسالة أرسلها إلى بعض طلبة العلم.
And so we find that the author, for this purpose, he wrote in the beginning of his book, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, because this book he wrote to send it to some of the students of knowledge.
وكل مؤلف فهو من باب الرسالة.
And everything that is written or every authored work, then it's from the categories of like something that is written or a letter.
إذا التسمية بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم في موضعين.
So the tasmiyah then is in two places.
وأما البسملة عفوا، وأما التسمية ففيما عدا هذه المواضع.
And as far as the tasmiyah, the simple tasmiyah, then it's in every other place beside these two.
البسملة هو قول الإنسان بسم الله فقط.
التسمية ولا البسملة؟
البسملة التسمية.
التسمية is just to say simply Bismillah.
وهذه تقال عند دخول المسجد، عند الخروج من المسجد، عند الخروج من البيت، عند دخول البيت، عند الطعام، عند الذبح، وكثير.
So this is said when you go into the masjid, or when you leave the masjid, when you go into the house, or when you leave the house, when you slaughter, or various other places.
فليس من السنة أن نضع مكان التسمية بسملة.
So it's not from the sunnah that we put the basmala in place of the tasmiyah.
بعض الناس إذا جاء يأكل ماذا يقول بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، هذا خطأ.
Some people when they get ready to eat they say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and this is a mistake.
نعم، إنما نفرق بين التسمية والبسملة.
Instead we should separate between saying Bismillah and between saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
هشام، ما معنى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم؟
بسم الله معناه
نعم كله بعضه ما في مشكلة.
باء للاستعانة.
أيوة.
يعني كل أسماء الله، يعني أستعين.
طيب قول بالإنجليزي ما يخالف، أنا أعرف.
بالإنجليزي؟
خل الأخوان يسمعوا.
The beginning of the bat is for seeking help, seeking aid, and Ism, this is for all of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it means I seek help and aid in the assistance of Allah.
هكذا. المهم أن نفهم أن في اللغة العربية الباء حرف جر واسم مجرور.
So he said it's important that we understand in the Arabic language that the word ba is a harf al-jar, and the word ism is what is majrur, is what's being pulled, or the object of the preposition, the completed preposition.
ودائما في اللغة العربية الجار والمجرور لابد لها من متعلق.
And every time in the Arabic language the jar and the majrur, or these words that are the preposition, it has to have something that it goes back to and connects to.
مثلا لما تقول في الدار، في حرف جر دار مجرور، من لابد من متعلق.
So for example, when you say in the house, in fi in Arabic, and the house is the majrur, you have to say who is in the house.
بسم الله يعني نستعين باب الاستعانة بسم الله على ماذا؟
So he says, for example, Bismillah. Bismillah, the ba we said here is for isti'ana, so we seek Allah's help in what?
هنا العلماء رحمهم الله قالوا التقدير إما أن يكون فعلا أو يكون اسما.
So here the scholars say that the appropriation of this connection is either a verb or a noun.
فمن قال التقدير فعل بمعنى أقرأ بسم الله.
So whoever says that the appropriated word is as a verb, then they say the appropriation in this point would be I read seeking help in the name of Allah.
أو أكتب بسم الله.
Or I write seeking help in the name of Allah.
أو أطلب العلم بسم الله.
Or I seek knowledge in seeking help in the name of Allah.
حتى لما تلبس ألبس بسم الله.
Even to when you put on your clothes, I put on my clothes seeking help in the name of Allah.
فالمقدر هو بحسب الحال.
So the thing that is to be appropriated is based on the action that's being performed.
وإما أن يكون المقدر اسما.
Or we say that word that is to be appropriated is actually a noun.
قراءتي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كتابتي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So you would say, and my reading is in the name of Allah, or my writing is in the name of Allah.
ويمكن أن يكون الفعل هو الأولى والأشمل.
And he says that it's possible that to make the word that is appropriated a verb is better and more comprehensive.
ويمكن أن يكون هذا التقدير سواء كان فعلا أو اسما مقدما ويمكن أن يكون مؤخرا.
And it's also possible that this word that we're appropriating or that we're putting in this place to connect to, it's possible that it can be in the beginning before the actual Bismillah, or it could come up after it.
السؤال الآن لماذا لم يذكر المقدر؟
So a question now is, why wasn't the thing that we're appropriating that the Bismillah is connected to, why wasn't it mentioned directly?
أبو معاوية أبو مناحي
أبو
مناحي ماحي
أيوه يمحو ما يشاء. I was saying, go ahead. Why is
لماذا لم يذكر المقدر؟
the word that we say that Bismillah is attached to, like we said, if it was reading, we say Aqra.
السؤال واضح؟
Is the question clear?
زين ليس واضح؟ طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم في جميع القرآن بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ما ذكر المقدر، ما قال اقرأ بسم الله ابدأ بسم الله، لماذا؟
So in the Quran we have Bismillah all throughout it, but it's never been said in the name of Allah I read, or in the name of Allah I write, or I begin. Why wasn't that I write or I begin mentioned directly? Why was that word that we attach it to not mentioned directly?
جيد، لكن لماذا لم يذكر المقدر؟ هذا السؤال.
He's saying that what was intended was reading, but the Shaykh said that's good, but why wasn't it mentioned directly? Why wasn't it verbally stated, that statement?
أجاوب؟ أحسنت، هذا قريب الجواب. لأن كل إنسان يقدر شيء معين، فذكر المقدر يسقط الأشياء الأخرى فتركه.
So the brother, he said that actions are based upon intention. The hadith and the Shaykh said this is good and this is part of the answer, and the answer is because everybody is doing some other action. Everybody is doing some different action. So if we were to mention directly the action that was being done, it would leave off the rest. So if we said, so it would leave off the rest.
فالآن الشيخ قد كتب هذه رسالة قال بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أكتب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So when the Shaykh, when he wrote this book, he wrote Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, but what he was appropriating was I write Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
وأنا لما قرأت قلت بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يعني أشرح مستعين بالله.
And when I read this book, I say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, appropriating that I explain this book. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I explain this book.
وأنتم قلتم بسم الله أي نتعلم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
And when we read, we say that we're learning Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
فاختلفت المقدرات بحسب النية.
So since all of our actions are different based upon the intention that we have,
فأحسن النيات.
So make your intentions good.
قال رحمه الله من أعجب العجاب.
So the author, he said, from the most strangest of the strange things,
وأكبر الآيات الدالة على قدرة الملك الغلاب.
And from the most, from the biggest signs that prove the ability of the king that is overpowering.
6 أصول بينها الله تعالى.
6 principles that Allah has made clear, that Allah the High has made clear.
بيانا واضحا.
A clarification that is obvious or clear.
للعوام.
For the general people.
فوق ما يظن الظانون.
Above that what is suspected by those who have their suspicions.
ثم بعد هذا.
And then after that, this.
غلط فيها كثير من أذكياء العالم.
A lot of the people who might be considered to be wise from the people of the world made mistakes.
وعقلاء بني آدم.
And likewise the intellectual people of the children of Adam.
إلا قل القليل.
Except the smallest number of a small amount of people.
الكلام الذي قاله الإمام فعلا هو عجيب.
And the statement that the Imam said is verily, in reality, it's a very amazing statement.
لو سألناكم الآيات التي تبين الصلاة أكثر ولا الآيات التي تبين الوضوء أكثر ماذا تقولون؟
If I was to ask you all the verses that clarify praying or the verses that clarify wudu, which one is more plentiful, what would you say?
الصلاة. آيات الوضوء آية واحدة.
He says salat is the correct answer. The ayat of wudu is just one verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah.
طيب أي الآيات أوضح؟ آيات التوحيد ولا آيات الصلاة؟
Which verses are more clear, the ayat of Tawheed or the ayat that explains Salat?
توحيد. ومع ذلك أكثر اختلاف الناس في التوحيد.
And even though in spite of this, the people argue the most about Tawheed.
هذا من أعجب العجاب.
This is from the most strangest of things.
أن الله جل وعلا يبين الشيء ويوضحه ويختلف الناس فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
Then Allah will clarify something. He will make it obvious, and the people will disagree about it in it. A lot of disagreement.
وأكبر الآيات جمع آية.
And the biggest signs, well, the word ayat is the plural of ayat, which means sign or miracle or verse.
والآية في اللغة معناها العلامة والإشارة والدلالة.
And the word ayah in the Arabic language means a sign or a reference point or something that shows what something is.
وسميت آيات القرآن آية وآيات لأنها علامات.
And the verses of the Quran were called ayat and ayah because they are signs.
وهذه الآيات الدالة على قدرة الملك بكسر اللام الملك.
And these ayat that point to that prove the ability of the Malik, and he said that we should make sure that the Malik here has a kasra on the lam.
الملك بالكسر أي الحاكم.
He said the word Malik with kasra means the judge.
أما الملك بالفتح معناه من الملائكة.
And as far as the word Malak with the fatha above the lam, then this means from the malaika, the angels.
والملك اسم من أسماء الله جل وعلا.
And the word Malik is from the names of Allah, the High and Exalted.
والغلاب بمعنى القاهر.
And the word غلاب, it means the one who linguistically in Arabic means the overpowerer, the qahir.
غلاب صيغة فعال بمعنى كثير الغلبة.
He said the word غلاب is on the Arabic language is on the scale fa'al, which means the one who is often in his overpowering. He overpowers all the time.
قد جاء في القرآن الكريم والله غالب على أمره.
And it's come in the Quran al-Kareem that Allah says He is accomplishing, or He will accomplish His decree or His affairs.
ولكن الغلاب صفة من صفات الله وليس اسما.
But the word al-Ghallab is from the characteristics of Allah and it is not from His names.
ليس كل صفة نأخذ منها اسما لله جل وعلا.
So every attribute of Allah, not every attribute of Allah do we derive from it one of His names.
لكن كل اسم لله جل وعلا فهو متضمن للصفة.
But every name of Allah, then it encompasses or it includes one of His attributes.
يقول 6 أصول بينها الله تعالى بيانا واضحا. البيان معناه الظهور والإعلام.
He said, he read it again, he said 6 principles that Allah has made clarified, obvious clarification. He said the word bayan in clarification in Arabic means to be apparent.
وبيان الله تبارك وتعالى
And it is the fact that Allah made it clear and obvious
إنما هو بما أنزله من كلامه في القرآن.
Is by way of what He sent down from His speech of the Quran, in the Quran.
وبما أوحى إلى نبيه من السنة.
And by way of what He revealed to His Prophet in the way of the Sunnah.
وهذا الكلام الذي بينه الله واضح حتى للعوام.
And this speech that Allah has made it clear from for the people is clear and obvious even to the general common people.
يعني مثلا لو سألنا رجلا عاميا في الشارع وهو يعرف العربية ما معنى الحمد لله رب العالمين؟ يقول الحمد لله رب العالمين.
So if we were to ask a person, a general person in the street who understood the Arabic language, what does Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen mean? He would say it means Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
كل إنسان يدرك هذا المعنى.
He says every individual understands this meaning.
لكن العجب ليس من الإدراك، العجب من عدم العمل بالإدراك.
He says, but the thing that's surprising is not the fact that people all understand it, but the fact that some people don't understand it.
فكم من شخص نراه.
So act on. I'm sorry. He said, but the fact is not that everybody understands it, but the fact that some people don't act on it. So how many people do we see?
فكم من شخص نراه يحمد غير الله.
So how many people do we see that praise other than Allah?
وينسى حمد الله الذي له المحامد.
And they forget to praise Allah, the one who deserves all the different types of praise.
الأمور 6 هذه التي بينها الله تبارك وتعالى غلط فيها أذكياء العالم وهي واضحة للعوام.
And these 6 principles that the Shaykh, that the scholar will mention, they've been the people, the wise people, the intelligent people of the world have made mistakes in them, and they're supposed to be from the wisest people of the world.
وعقلاء العقلاء جمع عاقل.
And the uqala, the intellectuals, and the word uqala in Arabic is the plural of al-aqil.
ولكن ليس كل عاقل يكون ذكيا.
But not every intellectual person is wise or really smart.
أما الأذكياء جمع ذكي وكل ذكي فهو عاقل.
And as far as the word adhkiya, then this is the plural of dhaki or wise person, and every wise person is intellectual.
ولكن أذكياء العالم كثيرون والعقلاء أكثر ومع ذلك هم عن هذه الأصول في غفلة ساهون.
So he says, so as far as the adhkiya or the wise people or the smart people of the earth, and they're plentiful, and the intellectual people are even more than that, but they still with all of this are having differences about this, and they're engrossed in these differences.
يعني ترى هذا الرجل الذي صنع الذرة، صنع الصاروخ، صنع الكمبيوتر.
So you see this person who made the rocket ship or a missile, or he made a computer.
يعمل من الساعة 7 صباحا إلى الساعة 7 مساء.
So he'll work from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening.
وإذا رجع إلى غرفته وإذا به يسجد لصنم صنعه بيده.
So when he goes back to his home, then you find him prostrating to a statue or idol that he made with his own hand.
هذا يدل على ماذا؟
This points to what?
يدل على أن الذكاء موجود لكن الزكاة غير موجودة.
This proves that his smartness is present, but his purity isn't present.
فالإنسان الذي أعطاه الله عقلا عليه أن يسأل الله الزكاة كما يسأله الزكاة أو الذكاء.
So the person who Allah has given him intellect, then it's upon him to ask Allah for purity as well as he asks for smartness.
ومن أعجب العجاب أن شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية ذكر عبارة عجيبة.
And from the things that are astonished about is that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah mentioned a very amazing statement or strange statement.
نقل إجماع علماء ما وراء النهرين.
He said he mentioned the consensus of the scholars except the people that live in wara al-Nahrain is Mesopotamia.
Those people who live.
Yeah, those people what wara al-Nahrain. Behind the two rivers, but it's
not between.
Behind the two rivers, but I don't know the name of the.
سيحون وجيحون.
سيحون الصينيون ولا؟
لا. كل ما وراء نهر جيحون طاجكستان.
Okay, yeah. Those people who live in that place. That live in that.
السند كله.
Hey, that place that's behind the two rivers, like Tajikistan and those type of places.
كلهم أجمعوا على أن ابن سينا كان من أذكياء العالم.
So all of those places, except what he mentioned, agree that Ibn Sina was from the most smartest people of the world.
وكل علماء ما وراء النهرين أجمعوا على أنه كافر.
And everybody except the people who live behind those two rivers all agree that he's a kafir.
فانظر الآن عنده ذكاء لكن ما حصل الزكاة.
So look now, he had that smartness, but he didn't have that purity.
وأنا أزيد على كلام شيخ الإسلام وأقول بل العالم اليوم يقر بذكاء ابن سينا.
And so I'll increase upon the statement of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and I say that the world today, all of them agree about the fact that he was smart.
ولكن لا نقر له بالزكاة.
But we don't agree for him or establish for him that he was pure.
إلا أقل القليل، يعني هناك قلة قليلة هم الذين أوتوا مع الذكاء زكاء فأدركوا مرام الله.
So with the statement as far as accept a small group accept a small number from the smallest group, then he says that what is intended here that accept that small number from the smallest group who was given purity, so they understand the goals that Allah has set.
إذا تقرر هذا
So when this is established or confirmed,
فينبغي أن لا نتكل على عقولنا.
So when this is established and confirmed, it's necessary that we don't rely on our intellect.
وإنما نستعمل العقول.
And verily we should use our intellects.
وفي نفس الوقت
But at the same time,
نستعمل الذلة لله.
We should use the submission or the humility for Allah for Allah.
حتى يأخذ بأيدينا فنصل إلى الحق.
So He will take by our hands and arrive us at the truth.
وهذا نبينا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يعلمنا.
And our Prophet, this is our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to teach us.
فكان وهو أهدى الخلق يقول في قيام الليل.
And he was the most guided of the creation. He would say in his night prayer,
اللهم رب جبريل وميكائيل وإسرافيل.
O Allah, the Lord of Jibreel and Mikael and Israfil,
فاطر السماوات والأرض.
the one who originated the sky and the earth,
عالم الغيب والشهادة.
the one who knows the unseen and what is obvious.
أنت تحكم بين عبادك فيما كانوا فيه يختلفون.
You will judge between your servants and that which they used to differ.
اهدني لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك.
Guide me to that which is differed about from the truth with your permission.
إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
Verily you guide whom you will to the correct or the straight path.
إذن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يعلمنا أن لا نتكل على أنفسنا.
So here is the Prophet ﷺ teaching us that we should not rely on ourselves.
وكان شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله
And the Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he used to, may Allah have mercy on him,
إذا صعبت عليه مسألة
when an issue was hard on him,
سأل الله وتوسل إليه
he used to ask Allah and use as a means with Allah.
وتمرغ وجهه بالتراب في السجود.
And he would used to get his face dirty and when he was in his prostration.
قال فيفتح الله علي ما لم أكن أعلم.
And so he said, after doing this, so Allah would open upon me that which I didn't used to know.
إذا لم يكن للفتى عون من الله.
So if a young man doesn't have help from Allah,
فأول ما يؤتى به مقاتل.
so the first thing that
أول ما يصاب به مقاتل.
So the first thing that will afflict him is any fighting or.
نعم. قال رحمه الله الأصل الأول.
So the author, he said, the first fundamental,
إخلاص الدين لله تعالى وحده لا شريك له.
that we should make the religion sincerely for Allah alone with no partner to Him.
وبيان ضده الذي هو الشرك بالله.
And clarification of its opposite, which is to give partners to Allah.
وكون أكثر القرآن في بيان هذا الأصل.
And the fact that the majority of the Quran is in the clarification of this fundamental.
من وجوه شتى.
From various different aspects.
بكلام يفهمه أبلد العامة.
And with the type of speech that is understood by the most country or the most any countryest of people.
هذا الأصل ينبغي أن ندركه وأن نفهمه فهما جيدا. أن التوحيد بينه الله بيانا شافيا.
So this fundamental, it's important that we comprehend it and understand it a good comprehension, and that is that the oneness of Allah has been clarified, a complete and good clarification.
وحذر عن ضده تحذيرا تاما.
And Allah has warned us from its opposite, a complete warning.
وهذه المسألة هي من أساسيات دعوة الرسل.
And this issue is from the fundamentals or the foundations of the call of the messengers.
وعليه مرتكز آيات الكتاب.
And upon this is the focus of the verses of the book.
وعليه المصير إما إلى الجنة وإما إلى النار.
And because of it is the going to either heaven or hell.
بل ما خلق الله الجن والإنس إلا لأجل هذه الغاية.
So instead, verily Allah had only created the jinn and the ins except for this purpose.
فدين يعلمنا ماذا نتزوج، من نتزوج، من لا نتزوج، كيف نأكل، كيف نشرب. هل يمكن أن يهمل الأصل الأول والأساس الذي عليه الديانات السماوية الحقة؟
So the religion that taught us who or what we can marry and who we can't marry and what we can eat and what we couldn't eat, is it possible that this could leave off the fundamental principle that was the fundamental of all the high religions?
هذا لا يعقل.
This is something that is not intellect. This is something that's not thought of.
ولا يتصور في الذهن.
And it couldn't be, pictured in the mind.
ولذلك ليس له وجود إلا في خيالات أهل الباطل.
And so for this reason, it's only found in the imaginations of the people of falsehood.
كما قال الإمام أذكياء العالم غلطوا في هذه الأصول.
Like the Imam mentioned earlier, he said that the most smartest of the people made a mistake in this fundamental.
ولنرجع الآن إلى بعض هؤلاء الذين يسمون أنفسهم بالعقلانيين.
And so we'll return now to those group of people who consider themselves or call themselves the intellectuals.
هناك من يقول من الفلاسفة سواء الفلاسفة المسلمين أو غير المسلمين.
There are people who consider themselves to be the people of philosophy, regardless if they're from the people of philosophy of the Muslims or the non-Muslims.
يقولون إن التوحيد الذي جاء به الرسل ليس مبينا.
They say that the tawheed that the messenger came with is not clear.
منهم من يقول إنما جاء الأنبياء والرسل بالتخييل.
So from them are those who say that the messengers and the prophets came with things that are imaginative or things that they just imagined.
ومنهم من يقول إنما جاءوا بالتجهيل.
And verily from them are said those that say the prophets were ignorant about that which they came with. They didn't know about it.
فأين ذكاؤهم الآن؟
So where's their smartness now?
رجل مثل الغزالي أبو حامد,
A man like Al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid,
يقول في إحيائه,
he says in his book Ihya,
يقول إن الأدلة التي لم توصلك ولا ترشدك إلى حقيقة التوحيد,
he says it's the proofs that don't connect you and don't make you arrive to the reality of Tawheed.
فليس لك إلا أن ترجع إلى ذوقك ووجدك.
So there's nothing left for you except that you go back to your own, what you taste and what your own self and your own face.
فتأملوا الآن رجل مثل هذا يعتقد أن الأدلة غير ظاهرة في أصل الأصول.
So, look at now a man who believes that the proofs are not present for this fundamental.
وهكذا جميع أهل البدع.
And like this is the entirety of the people of innovation.
الذين لا يعرفون أصل الأصول,
that don't know the fundamentalists of the fundamentals.
لا يفهمون أن الله بينه بيانا شافيا.
They don't understand that Allah made it clear, a clarity that is none needed after it.
ولذلك تجد منهم الخطأ في التأصيل والخطأ في الاعتقاد.
So for this reason you find them that they have fundamental mistakes and mistakes in their belief system.
مثلا لو سألنا أي إنسان
So for example, if we were to
ما
ask,
هو الركن الأعظم من أركان الإسلام, ماذا سيقول؟
so for example, if we were to ask any individual what is the greatest pillar of the pillars of Islam, what would he say?
إبراهيم.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
نعم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. ولكن مع هذا البيان هناك من يعتقد أن الأصل الأصيل هو الإمام.
So even though we would say that the most greatest of principles is the Shahadatain, with this clarity, there are those people who think that the greatest principle or the greatest fundamental of Islam is the issue of the Imam.
فإذا أيها الإخوة لابد أن يتقرر في نفوسنا تقررا بليغا أن التوحيد مبين بجلاء.
So therefore, my brothers, it's important that this be established and affirmed in our hearts, a complete establishment, that Tawheed has been clarified, a clear and obvious clarification.
قال إخلاص الدين لله تعالى.
So the author, he said that we make religion sincerely for Allah the High.
الإخلاص هذا مصدر من خلص.
Al-Ikhlas is the verbal noun or the idea for the verb khalasa.
ومعناه أن الإنسان يبتعد عن كل شائبة.
And what is meant by it is that the individual stay from anything that might mix up with it.
نخلص لله سبحانه وتعالى الدين.
So we purify for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the religion.
والدين هو ما يتدين به الإنسان ويتقرب به إلى الله.
And the word deen or religion is that which the individual acts by it or worships Allah by way of it.
فالدين سمي دينا لأن الإنسان يريد أن يتقرب بهذه الطريقة إلى الله.
So the word deen was called the deen in Arabic because it's the way that an individual wants to draw close to Allah by it.
وتطلق كلمة الدين ويراد بها العبادة.
So the word deen is said generally without any restrictions, and it was meant by it sometimes it's ibadah.
مثل لما نقول الدين لله يعني العبادة لله.
So for example, when we say ad-deenu lillah or religion or deen is for Allah, we mean by it worship is for Allah.
وربما نفسر الدين باللازم.
And sometimes we might describe the word deen by that which is necessary for it.
مثل مالك يوم الدين يعني يوم الجزاء.
So for example, we would say Maliki Yawm ad-Din, i.e. the day of recompense.
فهذا من باب تفسير الدين باللازم.
So this is from the way of describing the word deen by what is necessary because of it.
إخلاص الدين لله تعالى وحده لا شريك له.
So we make the deen sincerely for Allah alone, by himself with no partner.
الله هذه الكلمة موجودة عند النصارى بهذا اللفظ.
This word Allah, is it found with the Christians with this particular wordage?
أنا أسألكم. أنا لا أعرف الجواب.
فعلا أو يعني فيما يتعاهدون الآن؟
لا الآن موجود هذا اللفظ
في كتابهم العربي موجود.
حتى في يعني كتب.
لا خلي الترجمة.
في الأصل.
في الأصل.
أي موجود عندهم بس تركوه ونسوا.
تركوه ونسوا. وأيضا عند اليهود يقولون موجود وتركوه ونسوا. فهذه الكلمة مدخرة لكم يا أمة الإسلام.
So he said that he asked about this word Allah. Is it something that's present with the Christians? And the brothers talked about how it's present in their books today. And he asked about the origin of it, the origin of their books. And we mentioned the statement that it was a word that they had, but they left it and forgot it. And he said, likewise, the Jews, it's mentioned about them that they left it and forgot it. So this word was been preserved for you, O Muslims, for the Day of Judgment.
فينبغي علينا أن ننظر إلى قلوبنا.
So it's important for us that we look at our hearts.
والله جل وعلا لا ينظر إلا إلى قلوبنا وأعمالنا.
And Allah Jalla wa Ala, He doesn't look at anything other than our hearts and our actions.
فإذا أخلصت قلبك لله.
So if you made your heart pure and sincere for Allah,
فعلا وقولا,
by actions and by your statements,
فأنت الموحد.
then you are the one who can be considered a person of Tawheed.
وبقدر ما يكون في قلبك من الحظوظ,
and by whatever amount that you have in your heart, any portions that you give out,
بقدر ذلك ينقص توحيدك أو ينقض.
By that amount, by that same amount is the amount that your Tawheed is deficient or negated.
فينبغي الإنسان أن يراعي دائما قلبه وأن ينظر إليه.
So it's important that a person give importance and he pays attention to his heart and that he looks at it.
قال لا شريك له.
So the author, he said after that, with no partners.
الله جل وعلا ليس له شريك.
So Allah doesn't have any partners.
ليس له شريك في العبادة.
He doesn't have any partners in his worship.
لو قال لنا قائل لماذا ليس له شريك في العبادة؟
If a person were to say to us, why doesn't he have any partners in his worship?
فالجواب لأنه ليس له شريك في الملك.
The answer would be because he doesn't have any partners in his own, it's a kingdom.
وليس له شريك في التدبير.
And he doesn't have any partners in his governorship or his regulation of the affairs.
وليس له شريك في الرزق.
And he doesn't have any partner in the fact that he provides.
فما دام أنه ليس له شريك في أفعاله وفي ملكه وفي نعمه, فكيف يكون له شريك في عبادته؟
So since it's the fact that he doesn't have any partners in his kingdom or in his ownership or his things like this or his ni'am or his blessings, then how could he have a partner in his worship?
وعلى كل حال فالتوحيد مقرر حتى من الناحية العقلية لو سلمت الفطر والعقول.
So in any situation, this tawheed is established and agreed upon from the intellectual point of view, as long as that intellect is free from any mistakes or faults.
والشرك قباحته معلومة بالعقل والفطرة.
And shirk, its disgustingness and its repulsiveness is known by way of the natural disposition of a human being as well as by intellect.
عندك مال في جيبك؟ ها؟ أكيد. تحب أن أحد يشاركك؟
Yeah, he asked it.
لا خليه هو يفهم.
إن شاء الله.
نبغاه يصحى. أتحب أن يشاركك شخص في مالك أو تريد الانفراد؟ لا أنا ما أريد واحد آخر من الشارع. تأمل الإنسان يريد بيتا لنفسه، يريد حساب لوحده، عرفت؟ يريد زوجة لوحده، يريد كذا، لا يحب الشركة. الإنسان بطبعه لا يحب الشراكة، فكيف نرضى الشراكة لله الغني؟
So the Shaykh, he asked the brother, does he have any money in his pocket? And the brother said yes. And he says, do you like that somebody else, be a partner with you for your money? And the brother joked and said, my money is your money. But the Shaykh said about somebody in the street. And so the brother said no. And he said, so look at this. A person wants his own house, and he wants his own car, and he wants his own family. So the nature of human beings is that we don't want any partners. So how is it that we don't want any partners for ourselves, and we're not happy with that for ourselves, but we can be happy with that for the Lord of the universe? Who is free of all wants and needs.
أيضا مما يدل على قباحة الشرك عقلا.
Also that which proves the disgustingness of shirk intellectually.
أن الرجل لا يبحث عن شريك إلا إذا كان عنده نقص.
That a person doesn't look for a partner unless he has a deficiency in himself.
لماذا الرجل الذي يريد يبني شركة يبحث عن شريك؟
Why would the person who's building a corporation look for a partner?
لأحد ثلاثة أمور.
for one of three reasons.
إما لأنه ناقص المال يحتاج إلى مال آخر.
Either because he's deficient in his money, so he needs the money of someone else.
وإما لأنه ليس ناقص المال، عنده مال لكن لا يعرف التدبير.
So, or secondly, he has enough money. He's not deficient in money, but he doesn't know how to govern or regulate the situation.
وإما لأنه ليس ناقص التدبير لكنه مشغول فيحتاج إلى شخص آخر ينوب عنه.
Or maybe he's not, deficient in his governorship or his regulation of the affairs, but he's too busy to do so.
إذن الشراكة بكل حال الإنسان يحتاج إليه لنقصه.
So regardless, to have a partner in any of its situations, a person needs it due to his deficiency.
ومهما قدر الإنسان على دفع هذه النقائص ابتعد عن الشريك.
And as every time a person is further away from these deficiencies, then you find him being further away from needing a partner.
والله جل وعلا ملكه ليس بناقص وتدبيره تام ولا يشغله شيء عن شيء.
And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he's not deficient in his kingdom or ownership of anything, nor is he unable to govern it and rule it, and he is not made busy by something to be too busy to do something else.
الله سبحانه وتعالى بين التوحيد بيانا شافيا وبين ضده وهو الشرك، والشيء إنما يتبين حسنه ببيان ضده، فلذلك الله جل وعلا بين الشرك أيضا.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he clarified Tawheed in his book, and he also clarified shirk, and the beauty of it becomes more obvious when you clarify its opposite. So for this reason Allah clarified shirk in his book.
ولذلك ما تجد آية فيها ذكر للتوحيد إلا وفيها نفي الشرك.
And so for this reason you won't find any verse that has the mentioning of Tawheed in it, except that you find in it therein also the mentioning of shirk.
هشام، ذكرنا في العام الماضي ما هو أول أمر في كتاب الله؟
عبود الله،
العبادة. أول أمر التوحيد. أول أمر في كتاب الله أمر بالتوحيد، يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم. وأول نهي في القرآن نهي عن الشرك، فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا. تصور، هذا يدل على بيان التوحيد والتحذير من ضده وهو الشرك.
So he asked the brother, they mentioned last year, what was the first command, the first direct command in the Quran, and they mentioned the ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah where he says, "Oh mankind, worship your Lord." And he said, likewise, what's the first direct prohibition in the Quran? And it's the statement, so don't make with Allah any partners or any rivals. So you see that this shows that the clarity of Tawheed and its opposite of shirk.
وأعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد.
And the most greatest of things that Allah commanded with is Tawheed.
ولذلك كان دعوة الرسل قائما على هذا، اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره.
And for this reason we find that the call of the messengers was based and built upon this. They would say, "U'budullah, worship Allah. You don't have any other deity worthy of worship besides Him."
وأعظم ما نهى الله عنه الشرك.
And the most greatest of things that Allah forbade was a shirk.
ولذلك قال الله جل وعلا عن لقمان يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم.
And for this reason Allah said, as he mentioned on Luqman, he said that, "Oh my son, don't commit shirk with Allah. Verily shirk is a great oppression."
قال رحمه الله وكون أكثر القرآن في بيان هذا الأصل من وجوه شتى يعني مختلفة.
And the author, he said, and the fact that the Quran, the majority of the Quran is to clarify this fundamental from a lot of different ways, a lot of various ways.
وهذا البيان الذي في القرآن وكثر يفهمه أبلد العامة.
And he said that this Quran that has been clarified and is plentiful in the Quran, it's understood by the most, unintellectual, the countryest with us, or the hardest to understand, or the hardest headed of the general people.
سورة الإخلاص ثوابها الإنسان إذا قرأ سورة الإخلاص مرة كم ثوابها؟
Surah Al-Ikhlas, if a person was to read it just one time, what is the amount of the reward?
أبو ماحل
ثلث القرآن.
صحيح.
He says correct.
نعم. لماذا؟
Why?
جيد قريب.
A third of the topics in the Quran are contained in this surah.
يكون يتضمن ثلث المواضع القرآن.
نعم لأن القرآن 3 أقسام.
He says the answer was, you heard the answer, he said this is correct because the Quran has 3 categories.
القرآن إما كلام عن الله جل وعلا والتوحيد.
He says the Quran is either talking about Allah Jalla wa Ala and His Tawheed.
وهذا أعظم أنواع الكلام.
And this is the highest and the most magnificent types of speech.
وإما أن يكون كلاما عن الأحكام.
Or it's about the statements about the rulings.
تشريعات الصلاة الصوم الزكاة.
Legislations like Salat, Zom and Zakat.
وإما أن يكون كلاما عن الموحدين أو ضدهم وهم المشركون.
Or it will be talking about the people of Tawheed or their opposites, the people who used to give Allah partners.
فسورة الإخلاص ثلث القرآن لأنه متضمن لثلثه وهو التوحيد.
So Surah Al-Ikhlas is a third of the Quran because it contains 1/3 of its topics, and that is to talk about Tawheed.
نعم.
في رواية نصف القرآن هذا صحيح.
لا.
The brother asked, is there a riwayah that says it also says that it's half of the Quran? Is that authentic? And the Shaykh said, لا.
أكثر القرآن الثلث في بيان التوحيد.
He said majority of the Quran, 1/3 of it, is in the clarification of Tawheed.
لكن المصنف يقول أكثر القرآن والثلث ليس أكثر القرآن.
But here we see that the author, he said 1/3 of it, and 1/3 can't be the majority.
المصنف قال من وجوه شتى.
But the author, he said from various different ways.
ونحن قلنا أن ثلث القرآن في التوحيد يعني صراحة.
And we say that the 1/3 of the Quran that's in Tawheed mean clear and directly in Tawheed.
والدلالات على التوحيد من 3 أوجه قال المصنف من وجوه شتى.
And so to prove Tawheed is from different type or 3 different types of ways. And the author, he said from various different ways.
إما بدلالة المطابقة وهذا هو الثلث الذي تكلمنا عنه.
As far as what they call by dalalat al-mutabaqa, where it contains directly all of the topic of Tawheed.
وإما بدلالة التضمن.
Or by the dalalat they call tadammun, where it encompasses a portion of it there.
فإن العبادات والتشريعات كلها تتضمن التوحيد.
Because when we talk about the tashri'at and the worship, all of that includes or is connected to Tawheed.
وإما بدلالة الالتزام.
Or by way of what they call the dalalat al-iltizam, or the proof by way of necessity, or by way of what is necessary because of it.
فحال المؤمنين وحال الكافرين يدل بدلالة الالتزام على فضل التوحيد والحذر من الشرك.
So when we look at the character or the life or the result of the people who are of Tawheed and the life of the people who are of shirk, that shows us the benefit of Tawheed and the harm of its opposite, which is shirk.
فعلى هذا صار القرآن كله في الدلالة على التوحيد بمختلف الدلالات.
So based on this we find out that the Quran, all of it is about Tawheed with the different ways of proving it.
ولهذا يصح أن نقول أكثر القرآن في بيان التوحيد.
So because of this it is okay or correct that we say that the majority of the Quran is in clarifying التوحيد.
وإذا كان العامة لا يفهمون دلالة التضمن والالتزام فكل عربي يقرأ القرآن يفهم دلالة المطابقة.
And so even if the general people don't understand dalalat al-tadammun or al-iltizam, if they don't understand that dalala that is encompassing or what is led by way of necessity, then everyone who understands Arabic understands that direct or straightforward type of proof.
لما تأتي عند أي إنسان تترجم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، هل هناك أحد لا يفهم هذا المعنى؟
When you come to any individual, when you come to him and you translate you alone we worship and you aid only we seek, is there anyone who doesn't understand that meaning?
كل أحد يدرك هذا المعنى.
Everybody understands and comprehends this meaning.
أنها صريح.
Because it's direct.
ولكن العجب أنك تجد تفسيرا موجودا ويباع يقول إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، يفسره بتفسير الذي لا يحتمل معنى آخر، وفي الحاشية يقول لكن الاستعانة بالأولياء جائزة.
So he says that from the things that is strange is that you find that from the tafasir as the ones that will come and will have this statement, you alone we worship and your aid only we seek, and it's a direct, clear and obvious statement, and they'll put that there, but in the footnotes you'll find that, but it's okay to seek help from the righteous people.
نسأل الله جل وعلا أن يفقهنا وإياكم وأن يعلمنا التوحيد عملا. نعم.
We ask Allah that He gives us and you success and that He makes us understand Tawheed in action.
لعلنا يعني نؤخر الشطر الثاني من هذا الأصل في الدرس القادم. صلى الله على نبينا محمد.
He said, inshallah, maybe we'll put the second part of